Hello, I am Katia Miles.
I'm Rick Banghart.
And I'm Terry McGovern, and this is 3homies.com. Three homies, three friends who wanted to stay in touch during COVID.
And have continued to do so for, well, here we are. 3 years and 8 episodes later. So we've been at this for a while now.
That's certainly right. And we've learned a lot in the process. For instance, did you know you can configure Adobe's Premiere Pro to do a ripple edit delete with a single keystroke?
Yeah, I knew that.
Of course you did, Terry. But did you know that Rick is also a master of cross-stitching?
He did what?
It's cross-stitch, Terry. It's making pictures on fabric with colored threads.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I knew that too.
Yeah. And you will know much more about cross-stitching when Rick gives us an up-close lesson in this ancient art that keeps him in a state of peaceful relaxation.
Oh, wasn't that nice for Rick? Hey, but did you guys know that I once had a brush with greatness with a man who was destined to become one of the most important historical figures of the 20th century? Did you know that?
Mahatma Gandhi.
Oh, no, not Gandhi. No.
Oh, I know. Matthew Modine.
You better stop that with the Matthew Modine, you know.
Magic Johnson.
No, not Magic Johnson. Michigan State guys, you're all the same. No, I'm not going to tell you now. You're just going to have to wait.
Oh, the suspense is killing me. So, Katia, what do you have for this episode?
Rick, I will be sharing a compelling animated video that illustrates what's happening in Ukraine today.
And that's all coming up on 3homies.com.
I knew that.
Thank you for watching 3Homies YouTube channel. The way it works, if you give us a like, more people will watch us. Thank you for doing that.
Okay, brush with greatness. And this really was a brush with greatness. 1965. How old is this guy? 1965, and I'm in the Army Reserve, and it's time for our 2 weeks of summer training, and we had to show up at Fort McClellan, and that was in Anniston, Alabama, named, of course, after Jennifer Aniston. I'm joking. I don't know if you've ever been in Alabama in the summertime, but I promise you, and you think you can't have 400% of something, you can of humidity in Alabama. They had a thing at Fort McClellan called Category 4, and that meant that if there was a flag flying at the headquarters building that had a 4 on it, that meant Category 4, and your orders were to spring into action. No, your orders were to lie down and do nothing. Category 4, that's how hot it got. And you just lie on your bunk on those hairy Army blankets, you know, and the water just pours out of you. Anyway, it was hot, very, very hot. And we land in Atlanta. And Atlanta's airport is only a few years old at this time. And boy, I remember it was just scorching hot. And so we dumped our duffel bags on the sidewalk and commenced to do what any men of action do at a time like that, time on their hands, uniformed fighting men. We started playing poker, and I won. I mean, I jumped into the lead. I was never a gambler, didn't even enjoy it. It was just something to do. And I'm about $90 in front. And that's an enormous amount of money. And I say, I got to hit the head or latrine or whatever we're supposed to call it. You better come back here with our money. I don't know where they thought I was going to escape to. So I go to the John, and on my way out, I'm crossing the second floor up there. And I remember the airport was just brand spanking new. It was beautiful. And I'm heading toward the escalator, and I see a guy vectoring toward the escalator, just like me. He's about my size, African-American gentleman. He's got a pork pie hat on, very well dressed. And I'm, of course, in my dress khaki Class A's or whatever they were called. And we get to the escalator right at the same time, step on, and I look at him, do a double take because, as I said to him so intelligently, "You're Martin Luther King." And he looked at me and said, "Yes, I am." Anyway, this man was all over the news. He was the most photographed, the most publicized individual on the planet at that point. And here I am riding down the escalator with him, and I swear it seemed to slow down. It was just agonizing. It's got slower and slower. I felt like I was in one of those Sam Peckinpah movies, no. And I'm trying, God knows what I was saying to the man, but he was such a gentleman. And I remember him nodding his head and kind of, a little bemused look on his face. And he's thinking, I can't wait to get to the bottom of this escalator. And the only thing I remember saying to him was, "So, where are you going, sir?" And he said, and I remember the voice. I'm just talking to a guy in an airport. But the guy is Martin Luther King. And so when he talks, his voice rings through the rotunda. He said, "I am heading to Chicago, where I will meet with Reverend Jackson and form the Rainbow Coalition." "Oh," I said, "that sounds cool. Nice meeting you." And he walked away into history, and I walked away into a poker game and told the guys what had happened, and they weren't impressed. They just said, "Give us our money back." And I did. We played more poker. They won. But I was gone for the day. I was just lost in this moment that I had with this historic figure, this giant among men who was no taller than me, but a man who would give this country so much, so much.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
You're watching Three Homies right here on YouTube channel Three Homies. Give us a like, would you?
Earlier in the show, Katia mentioned our partner, Rick Banghart. He's a man of science, so he writes a lot of codes, deals with numbers all the time. That can be a little stressful. So he has found a way to relax, find his center, and go on with life. And in the process, be very creative. But here you are, a man, a grown man, I might add.
A grown man, yeah. Yep.
Knitting or whatever that is. Why?
I'm a Michigander. Michigan has the Henry Ford Museum at Greenfield Village. Late 19th century, early 20th century industry is demonstrated. And among those industries is textile industries. And as a very short kid, I watched the jacquard loom. What makes that loom so special, it was a programmable machine that allowed you to create incredible patterns on fabric. And that idea stuck with me.
We're looking at some of your work as you talk about this.
That is a photograph of my son, my daughter-in-law, and my two grandkids, Alice and Max. You'll notice that it is photographic. It's customary in needlepoint or counted cross stitch to do pictures of flowers and designs, sort of, you can imagine Oriental carpet kind of designs.
Sure.
To actually translate a photograph into a pattern that uses the colors of the thread and creates a photographic image on fabric.
And the way this is done is extremely complex, sometimes a little tedious.
Tedium is almost the object of the game. because
and now we get back to why you do it, which is to relax you, to completely absorb you in something constructive and creative. Yeah.
It is that, although I find that my programming absorbs me in something creative as well. It's just that when I'm done programming or writing or something, nothing weighs anymore. Nothing is heavier. There's nothing to touch. And that's the thing I like about the counted cross stitch, is the fact that after I do some work, that fabric gets heavier. It's substantial, and it will pass. There are examples of tapestries from ancient Egypt, thousands of years old.
My God.
This stuff lasts. And so the stuff that I do can reasonably be expected to last for several hundred years.
The only time I have ever seen a man knit was the great Roosevelt Greer. Big manly man. I don't think many people teased him about it because he said, it relaxes me. And everybody said, good, okay. Big defensive end for the Giants. Tell us about these two lovers, the two.
That was
beautiful.
I have to smile as I think about it. 2020, I don't know for you, but for me, was a lonely year. And I was looking for something that would sort of represent the longing to be together that so many people felt during that period of time. And just by luck, a friend of mine showed me this image. Showed me this artist's image. This is Daria Halatsovova. I'm going to have to work on the pronunciation of that. And I saw her work, and I saw this piece, and it spoke to me. I communicated with her because when I'm doing somebody else's design, I want the artist's permission to do it. And so I checked with her and said I was interested in doing this.
Right.
And then I discovered that she's a Ukrainian artist, and this was before I was thinking in terms of concern for Ukraine. But now I discovered that she's recently closed her Etsy shop because she can't deliver anything anymore.
So what you're doing then is weaving together threads.
But the threads I use are manufactured in France by a company called DMC. They come in nearly 500 different colors, and they're very carefully calibrated colors, so that over the centuries that this company has been making these threads, these colors are repeatable and reliable. I've started a project using a color, a particular DMC thread color. Visiting London, I ran out of a color, was able to go into a shop in London and purchase the color that I needed, and it matched the color that I had been working with.
Very good, sir. You're inquiring for an Indigo 47?
That's about right. That's about
Charles,
right.
Indigo 47.
I think I was looking for a 903, but that's I could go on about this all day, but it's time to move on to other things. You can hear more about my stitching when you check the 3homies.com YouTube channel. There you'll find all our past episodes, as well as some gems picked up from the cutting room floor.
Yeah. And, I have quite a few hobbies as well, but right now it is very hard for me to relax and focus on something because being a Russian American, I find myself deeply affected by what's happening in Ukraine. My heart is and my thoughts with Ukrainian people every day, and also with my country, that I find myself just stunned by how hijacked one big country can be within such a short time.
Hijacked is the word you're using, and I can't think of a better one.
I really don't recognize the country I grew up in. I was born, and grew up in Russia, or to be more precise, Soviet Union. And I had a wonderful childhood, but everything ended kind of like in my teen years when I turned 13. My country started falling apart in front of my eyes, and it disintegrated within few years, faster than a sandcastle.
Approximately what year, Katia?
Well, it was beginning of the 90s. The amazing thing that I do remember about the time and being a young teenager is that it really felt like a sudden and very strong wind of change came. You know, the Scorpion song, it really became...
Yeah.
It became not only an anthem for many people of that time and in history, but for me, it's almost like a part of my identity. The chains broke down that I didn't know even we had, and just the freedom and possibilities. I mean, that heightened sense was in the air. I actually became a part of that first democratic exchange between Russia and the United States. I was one of the first high school exchange students who went to US, and our mission was to learn the democratic way of life and bring it to Russia. But unfortunately, I very fast got a sense that Russia was at the fork, and it was taking a wrong turn. I remember what a depressing feeling it was to go from such heights, open gates, and then it was just shutting down so fast. And I was leaving Russia at the end of 90s with a pretty heavy feeling that the country was in the wrong hands. And that was right before Putin time. Yeltsin, who had trusted power to change the country, he gave it away for grabs. And top oligarchs decided to bring this small, errand boy who was so nice, charismatic, would do anything. And his only flaw was that he was lacking ambition.
And this was Vladimir?
And that was Vladimir. And I was watching how my country developed in the last 20 years from here. And the feeling I left with was just growing deeper and deeper. And I expected some kind of a breakdown and turn of events, not for the best, anytime. But what happened on February 24th was really a punch in the gut. Absolutely unexpected. I could never imagine that in my country, where I grew up, with anti-war slogans, literally from the kindergarten, we had signs, peace to the world. And
no, we never knew that, right, Rick? I mean, no, right. It never got to us that there was a period, your youth, where Russia was anti-war and pro-peace. We never got to see that.
Yeah, well, because the closed curtains. But that's how I grew up, with this big, because Russia was quite destroyed by the World War II. God. And rebuilding it, and just the whole sense, the whole propaganda was really anti-war. And to see that now I am that generation, and now I see that people are arrested because they have a sign, we are for the peace.
And this is the question here. What percentage, if you have any information on this, of the Russian people believe Putin's propaganda as opposed to what has actually happened, that he has invaded his neighboring country with no provocation?
it's really impossible to say. You would hear that the surveys say, high numbers support Putin. But who is participating in those surveys?
Yeah.
You can't really trust surveys. I have a Ukrainian flag. I have a Ukrainian flag in the car. And for me, Ukraine today is a symbol of lost dreams for Russia. Something that I wanted to see in Russia, something I grew up and was raised to be part of fight for the freedom, because of course freedom is the value of life. After the war, Ukraine is gonna raise up and be a new nation, strong, with a strong identity and clear way. And Russia is just starting to a very, very long way again of finding its ground.
Yeah.
And I'm just so heartbroken for both sides. So I found this video that I felt really necessary for me to share with you, because it's such a strong visual storytelling that speaks so well for me and so many people.
Мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
Не наша проблема.
Мы жертвы агрессии.
Доброго вечора, ми з України.
А вступление Украины в НАТО – это прямая угроза безопасности России. Мы требуем незамедлительно прекратить боевые действия. Мы будем стремиться к демилитаризации и денацификации Украины. Россия сделала все для сохранения территориальной целостности Украины.
Военный корабль, иди нахуй!
Доброго вечора, ми з України.